Welcome to Dynasty Playbook.
I'm Drew. Welcome to Dynasty Playbook.
Thank you, Waz.
Hey, guy. How you doing, man?
I'm good. For those of y'all who are new to the show, my name is Drew. You can find me on Twitter at DrewDotsonNFL. Starting the show off right with a lot of us. That's always a good sign. And then we have Waz, my awesome new co-host at WazNFL, WAZ, for those of you who are not so spelling inclined. And
It doesn't even matter.
Nah, you don't need to look him up. He's not that big a deal. But this is 2 weeks in a row. We're starting back into a schedule. I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, we already slipped one day, though. So we were supposed to do the Sunday night, and we're like,
Yeah, didn't happen. But
cool, man.
We're here today.
I'm fired up.
I am too. So I guess we can jump right into our playing discussion, or anything interesting happened in the NFL yesterday?
No, I pretty much the last
Lacy.
thing.
Eddie Lacy is just unfat enough.
$55,000 richer by meeting it by two pounds or so. Good for him, man. You know, a lot of people are giving him a hard time because of his weight. And it's really easy to joke about, but at the same time, he's an athlete, and the team does care about his well-being and his weight. So it's good that Eddie Lacy is trending in the right direction, because he's going to make use out there on the football field.
I can see that, but I'm still going to make fun of him for it because
badass.
I mean, I have a picture saved on him of him on NFL Network eating a big old fucking cheeseburger. Like, come on, man. Like, you couldn't debate, like, what's that?
Yeah, so I mean, he's the cheeseburgers. He moved down from the cheeseburgers and went to the China food.
Oh, good. The China food. Is that's the technical term? The China food?
Yeah. He said, I think he said on Twitter, like a couple months back, I'm gonna tear through this China food. I'm gonna go get some China food. So
I totally missed it.
I
thought that's how you said that. Like, oh, do you go to the Olive Garden? Like, I love this Italy food. This is fantastic.
No, actually, the biggest news that I think came out recently was last week, or just not even a week ago, that Blake Bortles improved his throwing motion. So arrows pointing up for A-Rob or Marquise Lee, who knows?
Actually, thank you for remembering. I can add him to my list, and let's just jump right into our discussions. We're going to talk about guys who, we're kind of just going to talk about all sorts of different guys, whether we think they're going to improve, not improve, guys that we kind of. I'm struggling for words here.
I think we're just going to fire through some guys. You like him, you don't like him. A lot of people, the offseason's full of all this coach speak. I know Tyler gave me crap about a little bit of coach speak on Evan Engram earlier. He's like, you believe that? You believe that they're actually going to leave him as a traditional blocking tight end? That's one of those things based on the receiving options that the Giants have. Yeah, I could see that. And that's going to be totally terrible for Evan Engram's stock year 1, year 2, and year 3. He's going to flame out and become a first-round bust at that pace. So I'm kind of worried about that.
See, and the way I look at it is I think we're just going to see more 2 tight end sets and have probably Ty in there doing the blocking, because Ingram.
Oh, wait, whoa! Will Ty cannot block either.
I couldn't tell you if he could or not. I haven't spent a whole lot of time with Will Ty.
I do believe, though, that the Giants have Rhett Ellison, so Rhett's going to be out there. I hope I'm not, screwing up this blocking tight end name real quick. Yeah, Rhett is a Giant. He's going to be their blocking tight end. They still got Will Ty and Evan Engram and Jarrell Adams. They have these guys that are like receiving threats, but they still really don't have that guy that can block. When they drafted Engram, I was actually totally shocked. I was like, wow, so you just got another receiving tight end who can't block, and you're desperate for a blocking tight end to help out that run game, because Paul Perkins, he's not going to be that guy. Oh, come on. I mean, right? I mean, they Vereen and Gallman, he can catch some passes as well, but they still need that traditional and hybrid style tight end who can receive and block. So I'm a little disappointed on Evan Engram's stock right now. I haven't been buying. It's been pretty much OJ Howard, then wait a little bit and maybe swoop up some Gerald Everett there in Los Angeles for McVay's Jordan Reed-esque type player, who I'm actually intrigued to see how he's going to make him work. So whole bunch of tight end speak. I just kind of busted out a show 2 days ago on the rookie tight end. So the knowledge is just in there. And, you know, when you're just soaked with tight end knowledge, what do you got to lose, right?
I mean, I suppose personally, I've stuck to my guns. I'm all about Jake Butt. I've probably got him in at least half of my drafts at this point. I really like him, especially at his cost. I mean, I saw this guy as being potentially the best tight end in the class. Granted, this was before OJ Howard just made me change my mind, but
no, he absolutely was the best tight end in the class there for a couple years, and then he blew out that knee for a second time, man.
Yeah, I'm willing to take the risk on that because I think if he hits, he's going to be a baller, and he's in a really good spot. I mean, Virgil Green's not that much of a competition.
No, and then you got AJ Derby, I think it is. The thing
Yeah,
I like
didn't
about
even know that name, so
Jake Butt, I mean, you get a lot of Heath Miller from him. He's that classic tight end who can. He's not great at anything really, but he's not bad at anything. He's big, willing to block. He's not like a mauler or anything, but he's going to get the job done, and he's gonna catch the football when he needs to. He's gonna, you know, do his assignment very well every play. And we're going to see Jake Butt, as long as his knee stays healthy, for many years. We're going to see, you know, that Heath Miller length of career going out for Jake Butt. I like it. It's just that ACL that's worrisome, and rumors are he's going to be starting the season on the PUP. And who knows if he's going to play it all this year. I would really like for him not to play all year, because why risk it? Jake Butt is that kind of player that I think the Broncos are going to need for several years. So don't fuck it up yet. You know, let's give him some time to recover, rest, learn a little bit of the playbook, and figure out who the quarterback's going to be there, which I think it's going to be Paxton Lynch. And, you know, get a little connection with these quarterbacks out on the field, and not so much like nursing a bum knee.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought up Heath Miller, because the guy I was thinking of was Witten, and that speaks again to that career length thing. I think he's never going to be the tight end one, even if Gronk just explodes or he decides he's just going to booze and party all day, every day for the rest of his life, which he can afford to do. But even without Gronk in the mix and Kelsey, he's still never going to be that, you know, top 5 tight end. But he could be one of those guys that's consistently in that 6 to 12 range. And I mean, again, 5th round pick, fuck it, why not?
That whole Kelsey drop that you put there too, I think you see a lot of Travis Kelsey and Jake Butt too, just that kind of dynamic kind of player who can do a little bit of it all. Not amazing at anything. I'm great. I mean, Travis Kelsey's awesome at catching footballs and jerking off in front of the referee, but Jake Butt, I mean, he could do all those things. I don't have any shares. I'm pretty much just stopping after Everett, but I could see it. I get it. I like him. I like the guy. I'm rooting for him, but I don't think he's going to be as fantasy relevant for me as a lot of other people are thinking. But I mean, he's consistent. I just want him to stay healthy, and I want to see him play a year first before I start buying into the stock.
Agreed. The other guy who I'm real interested in terms of tight ends is what's his name? The tight end Chicago just took.
Shaheen? Adam Shaheen?
Shaheen, that's how you said it, yeah. I think he's really interesting. He's going to pretty much develop with Trubisky. They're going to have that connection going day one. And I'm obviously not expecting things in the short term, because that offense is just going to suck ass, especially in the short term. But I think if Trubisky develops even to starter level, I think how do you say it? Sheehan?
Shaheen. You'll hear everyone butcher it everywhere. They're like Shahan, Shaheen.
Adam.
The thing, just call him like Adam Chipotle.
Adam Chipotle.
I guess he really likes his Chipotle, yeah. He's a big dude, 6'6", 280 almost, I think it is. I mean, and he's fairly athletic. We saw him do it at the combine. So a lot of people are on board with just that speed and size build that he has and the qualities that he has. He looks a little stiff. I like the speed and agility though, but I mean the stiffness is going to come from when you're 6'6" and that big. You know, we have to wait for Zach Miller to, you know, leave town first. Every time that guy gets snapped in half, somehow he just comes back and be like, hey, I'm healthy again. The guy's like a living dead. And Zach Miller's been Mr. Consistent there for a little while. And I think Mike Glennon and or Mitchell Trubisky are going to rely on someone like, like Zach Miller. We may not see a lot of Adam Shaheen this year. We may not even see a lot of him next year, but we could see him develop into that tight end that kind of comes around the block in 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, I could see that. I guess I'll move on to my next guy. And I wanted to talk about kind of the whole New Orleans backfield because it's reminding me incredibly of that 2011 backfield, the Pierre Thomas, Mark Ingram, Darren Sproles, all that together.
Are you roster baiting right now?
I'm actually not, because I'm not as excited about it as I was with Sproles and even PT. But pretty much what I was getting at was none of them besides Sproles were all that fantasy relevant, and Sproles was reliant entirely on the PPR output. And I think Kamara can do that. I think he can be that target hog. But especially for redraft, I'm steering clear. And I'm ready to move off all my shares of Mark Ingram if I can get even decent value on it. And I've said that for a while. I've still got a couple of them because I'm entirely too lazy to shop them and try and get a deal done. But I think that's the end of the line for Ingram as a potential starting fantasy running back, at least consistently.
It just never ends, does it, with Mark Ingram? Like, I think we brought this up last week. Why can't he just have his backfield? Let's just keep putting more guys in the way. Let's keep sharing carries with someone else. I hope he goes to Philadelphia. That'd be great, but I don't know if those rumors kind of stalled out, but that's something you can see happening depending on how we see, AP this year or Alvin Kamara. We did talk about Kamara a lot last week too, and I'm a little weary to see if he is going to be thrown in that Darren Sproles role or if, Sean Payton. I brought the fact that he's probably going to do everything he can to show off and try to save face for that franchise and try to hold on to his job, and Alvin Kamara might be the beneficiary of that. I look forward to seeing. I did pick up some shares, a little cautious though.
I can understand that. To me, I see it less as let me show off my new toy as more so let's go back to that offense that was killing it a couple of years ago, the one that was dragging our shitty defense all the way into the playoffs. That 2011 team with that offense had not Alex Smith and Vernon Davis had career games, that's a potential Super Bowl team. And yeah, that's just me jerking it to a great old team. But
that brings up a good point though, Drew. We keep mentioning back in like 2011 and how they actually ran that football. They had so many years to kind of fill that void that Darren Sproles left, but they've never even attempted to fill that role. Are we really just kind of hoping that Alvin Kamara fills that role, or is he just going to be put in a different kind of role that's probably a little bit detrimental to himself as a fantasy asset? So the fact that the Saints have not made any moves to kind of get that electric kind of player that Darren Sproles was in the offense for the last 5-6 years, why would they try to be doing it now? Alvin Kamara isn't that perfect mold of Darren Sproles. He's close to it. That's the closest comp we can get. And the fact that he is in New Orleans now makes it a little bit easier. But we should also tread with caution that Kamara might not even be doing that. He just might be a change of pace back, a receiving threat, but not a 2-down guy even maybe.
See, I don't necessarily know that I agree with that because I think they originally tried to replace him with Cooks. You see how they use Cooks his rookie year, and it's Sproles light, and they've tried replacing it. Part of the problem is there's not a Sproles every draft. There's not Sproles available in free agency. We've tried filling it with like Cadet and even I guess Lasco to an extent, but we just haven't put the actual capital into getting a guy that we can rely on. We've tried to bargain bin our way to Sproles replacement, except for when we drafted Cooks, and then we realized, hey, he works a lot better when you send him deep.
Let's get rid of him.
Yeah, but
yeah, I mean, for a third round pick, early round 3, 67th overall pick, that's that is a decent enough draft capital to hope for that kind of role for him. But we have seen so many round 3, round 4 running backs just do nothing. So let's hope for the best. I'm rooting for you. I'm hoping it works out because I do have a couple shares and therefore I care.
Now, I'm by no means putting this in stone because I tend to have a lot of those opinions where I'm like, this is what's going to happen, damn it. And
this will happen. Mike Thomas is going to be the shit.
that's another guy I want to talk about. And granted, I don't want to talk about Saints all day. Well, I'd like to talk about Saints all day, but no one else wants to listen to it. I don't think Mike Thomas has the ceiling that a lot of people think he has.
I agree.
I think we're looking at like a 1,300 yard year as like his career year. I went back and I think Jimmy Graham's stats are about where he tops out, and that's Jimmy never touched 1,400. I actually went through and saw how long it took us to have a 1,400 yard receiver, and it was Joe Horn.
How far back was that?
That was 2004. I was not yet in high school the last time the Saints had a 1,400 yard receiver.
Yeah, I was out of high school, man. But Joe Horn, that's really when I started doing a lot more fantasy football. And Joe Horn was the shit in those years. Everyone wants some Joe Horn. I mean, you get 1,400 yards back then, back when it was really heavily running game. And you're going to reap great rewards with that. I remember those days, the good old days.
Oh, yeah, and the crazy thing is we still had a killer running game. Deuce was wrecking it. It's amazing that team sucked so fucking bad. But that's a complete tangent, and I think we're going to go away from the Saints right now.
Well, you know what? Let me jump on to Mike Thomas as well.
Okay.
I do think, and I do believe I've mentioned this a few times here and there, I think Mike Thomas benefited greatly from having Brandon Cooks around. It was very obvious on tape, I think. Brandon Cooks pulled so much coverage. They were all over him. So, most of the game. I have a feeling Mike Thomas is in for a rude awakening without Brandon Cooks on the other side of the field, or kind of, chewing up those linebackers and trying to pull the safeties over. I think, sure, he's going to be a red zone threat, but, now he's going to get double teamed a lot more often. I'm really worried about his output. I've tried to sell any share I had. I'm not buying into him. A lot of people are still on board because now they see he's the only guy. That is a problem. So don't just see Drew Brees. Yeah, see Drew Brees. That's a great advantage for Michael Thomas. But Michael Thomas by himself, his ceiling is severely limited, in my opinion. And now the loss of Cooks is going to make it probably even worse. And I'll eat those words if I'm wrong. I mean, it'd be, shoot, we love seeing kind of a young guy become, get put in the spotlight right away. But I just don't think it's going to happen for Thomas this year.
Yeah, see, I'm not as pessimistic about it. I think Thomas is going to be, I think he's going to kill it for a number of years because he is quite a good wide receiver. But I think if we start looking at him in that top 6 wide receivers, if he has a fantasy finish in there, it's going to be off of touchdowns, not off of yardage. And I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad thing. I think we're looking at a consistent top 12, top 15 wide receiver pretty comfortably because you've seen what Drew can do with a guy that's got that kind of skill. You look at Jimmy Graham's stats, and if Jimmy wasn't so fragile, he'd have been a better tight end than Gronkowski in terms of fantasy production, I think. But I am not turning away from Mike Thomas. I actually drafted my first shares of him this year at his increased price because I still think there's a lot there.
Where did you take him?
Early
second. Yeah, he's actually that's actually really good value. He's going off like late first in Dynasty startups right now, so you can't really hate on that. But I guess he's all kind of in that bubble with Allen Robinson, DeAndre Hopkins. So I mean, any of those guys you can kind of take, in the same group.
Where I took him, to be honest. So while I check on this, why don't you start on your next guy because I talked for a long time.
Yeah, we have a lot of we'll get into it a little further, but I want to take some time to talk about Todd Gurley and the Los Angeles Rams. So Todd Gurley's looked pretty kind of in these last couple of years, and a lot of it has to do with the Rams organization, their former coach, Jeff Fisher, the porous offensive line, their rookie quarterback. It's been a mess. The thing is, people are starting to give up on him, and people are starting to trade Todd Gurley for, just like okay running back prices. I think Todd Gurley is going to be fine in the NFL, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how McVay uses him. I think Todd had, a lot of the issues that Gurley had to do with Fisher, and I think the whole organization had some kind of poison in it. Everything up. I don't think he has anywhere to go but up, and I think the team around him is getting better. Jared Goff's going to have another year under his belt, and I think the team's going to be motivated under the new coach. I think Todd Gurley is actually going to run for more than 3 yards per carry. I think he's going to have more touchdown opportunities, hopefully. I think they're going to be able to better game plan their offense, and I'm willing to buy Gurley everywhere. I'm going to kind of look up, his ADP right now. He's actually going as the 18th overall player, so he's going in the mid-second, and he's going as the running back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, running back 6 off the board. So Melvin Gordon is actually sneaking above him now. And as much as easy as it is to like Melvin Gordon right now because of his immediate opportunity, he's not really sharing the load with anyone. Neither is Todd Gurley. And Todd Gurley is going to be handed that rock a million times a game. Well, not a million because they're always going to play from behind, but he's got that volume. He was the second in carries or touches in the NFL last year behind Frank Gore. And there's no reason for that volume to even go down, really, because the Rams are the same team. Sure, they have some receiving options now, but Jared Goff's going to rely on him a lot to move that football, and I think McVay is going to use the best football player on his team very often. That's going to be Todd Gurley. So I'm buying Todd Gurley his price right now. If you can get him for cheap, I'd get it.
That's actually RB6 is exactly where I would have Gurley right now, and I'd have him under Gordon. We talked about it last week, but I'm not shitting on Gurley. I'm apprehensive. That's why I'm taking Gordon over him, because they have similar situations, but Gordon's got a passing game that'll take attention off them where Gurley absolutely does not. When your number one wide receiver option is Tavon Austin and Robert Woods, your passing game's not really all that formidable. It's not. You don't have Troy Holt there, I'll tell you that much. But I also think Gurley's gonna do well. I think over 3 yards a carry is kind of a gimme. I'd be shocked if he even comes close to that again. But
he's a super talent. I think he's an elite athlete in his own sense, and he is not sharing carries with anyone. And I think Sean McVay, like if we saw what McVay did, if he was the reason why Kirk Cousins and Jordan Reed had such the pop and the boom that they did, and if we see maybe even Cousins or Reed kind of trail off this year, that's good signs for Gurley, because that means McVay did have something to do with it. I'm hoping for the best. I mean, I love Todd Gurley ever since he came into the league. Even before the league, it was just I was a big fan of him. I want to see it work out. I hate all the hate that's being pushed his way, because he's a tremendous football player, just put in a really lousy situation, similar to, do you remember like Corey Dillon in Cincinnati? He was just like the only guy on the football team. It's just like, just get him out of there. He needs to go to a winning team, and look what he did with the Patriots then. Todd Gurley's an even better athlete, just put in a lousy situation. But I like the way that the Rams are trending right now. Obviously, they don't really have any other way to trend but up. But the fact that Fisher's gone, the fact that they got a new young coach in and have some playmakers around him now, I like it. So
I think it's interesting, because I hadn't really considered the Kirk Cousins, Jordan Reed thing. Not so much for Gurley, but for Goff. I think if he can turn Cousins, he wasn't polished. He wasn't, a guy that when you were drafted, you're thinking, oh, he could hit. And if he does, he's going to be a top 10-ish quarterback in the league. That might be a little high. But if he can do that with Cousins, who's to say he can't do the same with Goff? And he has a fairly nice tight end on the roster too that doesn't get very much love. And I know I know Tyler was a fan of him, and that's Tyler Higbee. It's the Tyler connection. But
that knucklehead.
I think in the long run he's going to be a good buy, and he's going to really turn into a productive fantasy asset. I think he could end up being the best receiver on the team.
Higbee?
Until they get a better receiver.
You talking about
yeah,
Tyler Higbee?
Mm-hmm.
Man, I think Gerald Everett is going to be quite the beneficiary there. And I know someone that Tyler loves that I've been talking about is Cooper Kupp. And it's so easy to hate on Cooper Kupp. And I get it. I get it a lot. But Cooper Kupp could not have fallen into a more perfect situation for himself. I mean, the competition around him was Pharaoh Cooper, Tavon Austin, and now Robert Woods. Robert Woods is a great guy, but Cooper Kupp, I think, is, as a football player, just kind of superior to all of them. He's gonna get peppered with targets. He's gonna be, it's really hard to say because the offense. I'm talking up the Rams offense, but then kind of biting my tongue at the same time. I just think the Cooper Kupp hate is unwarranted, but I think a lot of it has to do with, one, he's on the Rams. Two, he's white. There's nothing special about relying on a wide receiver one that's white. And three, Matt Kelly hates him, so that means like most of the sheep in the dynasty industry are hating him as well.
Which is fun for me because he always hates on good players. That means I get
exactly, and he likes all the bad ones. So the fact that Matt Kelly is hating on Cooper Kupp is good news for the rest of us, all of us bright-minded folk. I mean, and the fact that McVay and the Rams organization, they purposefully drafted him higher than expectation. They were desperate for him. They know what they get from Cooper Kupp, and I think they're going to use him very well in the offense. And I think Jared Goff's going to get a really good connection with him. And same thing with like Gerald Everett, similar to the situation. I know you were talking about Tyler Higbee, but Gerald Everett, McVay wants his Jordan Reed. And I think he's going to try to mold Gerald Everett into that role. Everett is nothing close to the athlete that Jordan Reed is. I never even really liked him coming out, but I'd like Everett with McVay a lot. And I think you're going to see a great value if you're getting Everett in drafts late. He does fall. I think the news is starting to pick up a little bit because a lot of people are jumping on board with Everett now. But I think there's really good sign of things to come for Cooper Kupp and Gerald Everett in Los Angeles under McVay.
That I'll be interested to see how that plays out. I really don't have a dog in any of these, so I'm just.
I know. I kind of threw out a whole bunch of names there and took time to discuss the Rams because I know a lot of our listener questions were surprisingly all revolving around the Rams, at least half of them. I mean, Todd Gurley, they talked about who would we draft from the Rams. I know we'll get into that, but take the time now, guys, to listen up to that because we're not going to be talking about the Rams for too much longer.
That's good. I like not talking about the Rams.
Right? Let's hold off for a couple weeks, all right? I'm all Ramsed out.
So, any other guys you wanted to really touch on before we start moving into our questions? Who you got?
Yeah, actually, I do. There was I had a little bit of a discussion with a few people. It's so easy to love Corey Davis this year. I get it. But at the same time, people are thinking that Rashard Matthews is worth nothing anymore. And I know I've been a Rashard Matthews fanboy. I know you may think I'm a little biased. But at the same time, Marcus Mariota and Rashard Matthews created such a trustworthy bond there. I mean, Rashard was catching over 60% of his passes. He was scoring touchdowns. He was making plays. And for a young quarterback like Marcus Mariota, he's not just going to stop throwing it to Rashard now. They're not just going to stop using Rashard after the kind of season that they had together last year. Corey Davis is going to be a baller in Tennessee. I get it. But don't be giving up Rashard Matthews for pennies because that guy is still going to be relevant. He's still going to be I think he's still going to be a top 25 wide receiver. It may be maybe that's kind of like high ending it, but there's no way he's going to be falling below wide receiver 3 value. No doubt in my mind.
You see, and I'm on the opposite spectrum of that, whereas
everyone is.
I saw Matthews as being overvalued before they drafted Davis. He's just the opposite. He screams, what was his name? He'd had one hot season with Dallas and then got a huge free agent contract. Laurent Robinson.
Oh man, but Richard he's a great athlete, man. I know he's bigger than a smaller receiver, but smaller than a big receiver. But this guy is like, I know it's so many people get comped to Anquan Bolden, but he has that ability, that Anquan Bolden ability. And the thing is, a lot of people it's easy to hate on Richard because he was stuck in Miami behind like 3, 4 wide receiver ones and twos. Then finally he was knocking for 2 years, be like, get me out, get me out. The moment he got out and in Tennessee, he shut up all the fucking haters in Miami, and he balled out last year with Mariota. I mean, he turned heads. No one thought he was going to do it. I did, but so I still think that Richard has some value. Go out and buy him because people are just giving him away. Take your time. Talk up Corey Davis and how he's just going to take like 90% of the market share. That's what people seem like they think. It's crazy. So I like Richard this year as a cheap buy, especially if you're competing. He's not going to go anywhere this year.
Yeah, I'm still not sold. You did your best, but I'm still not sold.
You know what, Drew? If my responsibility was to sell young players, I wouldn't be doing a very good job because I still need you to win some football games in these fantasy football leagues. You should probably start listening to me sometimes.
Oh, I forgot about all those championships I could have won with Rashard Matthews last year.
Dude, I won. I went pretty far with a lot of Richard shares last year. It was great.
Pretty
but
far.
How much going to happen this year? But his value.
Did you make any money?
Oh, I made a bunch of money, man. Made a bunch of money. MFL 10s, MFL 25s. And the Scott Fishbowl last year.
So you redraft. Tell me all about your redraft domination.
I'm pretty sure I had Richard in 2 of our leagues together. Then I'm pretty sure I won both of those.
Oh, well.
But the listeners don't fucking care about our leagues, Drew.
You'd be surprised how much we get messaged about our leagues.
It's because all of our listeners are in our leagues.
No. I mean, they eventually end up in our leagues because we abduct them and put them into our camps. I don't know if that's a term I'm allowed to use anymore, but speaking of, we got some constructive feedback this week that we swear a lot and that you should not listen to this show with your children in the vehicle. And I'm going to apologize that apparently the explicit warning and I don't know what else to really tell you, but we could do like everybody else does. We could do like DLF and UTH and all those other Dynasty pods do and be clean cut and stick to the same formula every week. But fuck that. That's no fun. I mean, we didn't make it to what? This is our 74th episode. We didn't make it just by copying other people. Yeah, this is what the playbook is. It's kind of dumb and there's a lot of cursing and sometimes we have some good ideas and a lot of times we don't. So
I think every episode should be our 69th episode.
We really kind of undersold our 69th episode. We really did not bring it.
Let's do it, man. Let's just keep numbering every episode 69 until we reach like episode 420, and then we can just like jump right from 69 to 420.
I'm glad we're being adults about this. This is fun.
All right, so to the listener that had an issue with our swearing, I just want to tell them thanks for listening, man. So I mean that's cool. The fact that they listened, and now I feel bad because his kids were in the vehicle, but at the same time, it's like that's never going to happen. Who's going to start? Hey, I'm going to pick a brand new Dynasty football podcast to listen to today while I bring my children to school, and all of a sudden they fall upon the Dynasty Playbook. Like, I feel a little bit lucky. I mean, that was my first time, and it's like I already got one hater, and no one said good job, man. Everyone said, "Whoa, bro, do not recommend." They curse a lot, F-bombs in the first 20 seconds. My kids are scarred for life. I'd be like, oh, that's awesome, man. Thanks for listening. Shout out.
My kids are scarred for life. Good. Then we have future listeners. Perfect.
We do. The perfect Dynasty Playbook clientele right there.
It really is. I mean, we're mostly going for emotionally damaged degenerates. And so far we've been hitting our mark pretty hard. But I guess we should eventually move on to these questions. Otherwise, it'll never get done. And our first one comes from at Mike Sood, who everybody knows Sood. Here's a non-IDP question. Why are you doing a second non-IDP show before an IDP playbook? Now, this
I'll
is
take
a legitimate
this.
question. Okay, hit me.
Yeah. Because I don't feel like fucking talk about IDP, Sood. Jesus Christ, man. All right, that's it.
All right. I like that answer way better than what I was going to say. But in legitimacy, it's because Waz isn't recording the IDP show with me, having to rely on people like Tyler, who's so reliable. It's going to be a whole separate setup. It's going to be rotating co-hosts, and getting that organized and set up takes longer. And I've been devoting my time and energy to getting this running before I start working on other facets of the show. But don't worry.
I'm excited about the IDP playbook, though, man. Do you have any guys lined up?
EC and Tyler have both agreed to do rotating hosting, at least,
And we'll get Sticky in, right? I'm volunteering Sticky to jump in this. I'm gonna volunteer EC to do about a dozen of those. Tyler, he can come in and kind of do the video editing if he likes. I don't really want him to talk at all. And who knows? Even like Bill Layton over there, we can get him on there a few times.
Layton. But
Layton.
We're I really haven't decided how we're gonna set this up. I if it was in my ideal world, it would be a three-way every week with me, EC, and Tyler, but we can't be that lucky. So,
but I mean, what else is EC doing? I'm pretty sure there's not really much to do in Utah. I've been there once, and all I did was like test launch a cruise missile and then pick up the pieces. It's just nothing but like test range.
Oh yeah, that's all I did.
Drops Mike.
Fucking asshole. I got to do construction work, and you're over here setting up cruise missiles. Clearly, I went into the wrong MOS.
I'm under assumption that everyone that listens to the Dynasty Playbook is familiar with Eric Coleman, right? I mean, if they're not, at Utah, EC is one of the most brilliant minds in IDP. I say that about like Tyler and Drew as well, but EC, I mean, let's be real, man. He's a superstar, dude. That dude knows his stuff. I love listening to him talk, and he's got a podcast now with Lan over there, the Read and React podcast. Good for him. I just hope he doesn't want to waste all his time on that one when he can just come in the Dynasty Playbook and just like drop the knowledge, man. Because
I mean, we are big time.
He's always been a blast to listen to.
I'll tell you,
he is big time now.
Like IDP, I'd follow EC because he's just like I the guys I know in the Dynasty community, like. He's just an awesome dude. He's not he's not an asshole. He's not, oh, look at all these things I've done. You guys are peons like some of the other writers tend to do. I'm not going to name any names, but you know who they are.
He's just a dad. He's like a Dynasty IDP dad. And he's just going to be there for you.
But he's not, just any dad, because not all dads are great. But he's like that cool dad that your friends had that,
DLF has DLF has the cool IDP dad over there in Eric Coleman. He is that cool dad.
All right, I think that's enough blowing
enough dad talk.
Our next one comes from Dylan, who at DT Lurch, who hosts the best article for team defense every year. It's all about streaming defenses. He's got like the super fancy algorithm, and it works. I do all my waiver claims based off his defensive decisions. So
me too. Every league that I have a team defense in, I go on to mpeople.com for Dylan's team defense rankings. I was like, I'm going to trust you. First one. Okay, I'm just going to go down the line. If any are available to stream on my waiver wire. Dylan can't be wrong because math is facts, right?
Something like that. I mean, it's obviously not guaranteed, but the hit rate is super high. But his question is, the new tight ends look sweet, but ranking rookies, I can't go any higher than 12th, and that's for O.J. Howard. Even optimistically, they're 2+ year projects. Am I wrong? I think we already hit up Ingram and pretty comfortably said he's a couple years out. Because even if he develops, he's still going to contend with having OBJ, Sterling Shepard, and Brandon Marshall. And Brandon Marshall is going to play kind of that similar role to what Ingram can do. So even if he's getting out there, it's going to be limited snap counts. And I don't see him as a blocking guy. That's the way I'm taking it. But I think if you're going to see fantasy relevance from him, it's a couple years out. In terms of OJ Howard, I think OJ Howard can be a tight end 1 by next year. I think, to give him that rookie season, kind of like, I think in terms of like career projection, I think it looks a lot like Gronk. Gronk had a semi-legit rookie season. I'm not going to say Howard's going to have that good a one because he's not playing with Tom Brady, and he's not going to have Aaron Hernandez and Edelman and.
But he has Cameron Brate, man.
Oh, my bad. They do have Mike Evans. I'll give him that, but I just think Howard's looking at probably next year. He's already going to be a legit fantasy starter. And Njoku,
no doubt about it.
Go ahead. Sorry, I don't need to just keep running my fucking mouth.
I want to blow smoke up OJ Howard's ass a little bit more here. I love OJ Howard. I would absolutely take him by 12. I would take him probably, depending if we're just in like a standard league where there's no tight end premium, just one quarterback, PPR, I'm probably taking him around like 107. There's a lot of guys I'm low on. I get it. But if I need a tight end, there's no tight end like OJ Howard. The worst thing that happened to OJ Howard was the fact that he went to the Buccaneers. Not because the Buccaneers are a bad football team, not because Cameron Brate is, an efficient tight end there. It's because of Jameis Winston and Dirk Cutter. Jameis isn't really a good quarterback. I'm sorry to break it to you. He's just really not. He pads his stats with a lot of short passes, a lot of bubble screens. And Jameis Winston throws 4 different kinds of passes. If it's not like 20 feet over the receiver's head, or if it's just a prayer to Mike Evans, or it's just a dump pass to one of his running backs, it's to the tight end. And Cameron Brate was a big example of that kind of volume and that production. I can't trust Dirk Cutter as a coach to be able to utilize a player properly, but OJ Howard is just a phenomenal athlete. I think he could do it all. We saw him block so much at Alabama, and the fact that, he knew what his job was. The guy had so much more in store, and when they needed him to get in the passing game and catch them footballs, he looked really good doing that too. So I'm really looking forward to see what OJ Howard does in a higher volume offense. Tampa Bay still relies heavily on the run, but I think they have more options out there now with Deshaun Jackson and now OJ Howard, and then with Mike Evans in the mix. Jameis is going to be throwing a lot more, which is kind of dangerous because the fourth kind of pass that Jameis throws that I didn't mention was to the other team. So if he can if Jameis can grow up a little bit, throw a more consistent football, I think OJ Howard obviously is going to be a great beneficiary of that. I think OJ Howard is in for a great career. I would not be surprised. He should be a tight end 1 this year. He should be top 10, but next year, we're looking at the opportunity for a top 5 tight end from year 2 right off the bat. So it all comes down to Jameis, and I think we will see the biggest boom with OJ Howard the sooner that Dirk Cutter gets out of Tampa Bay and or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers find a better quarterback. So there's my hot take.
See, that makes me want to shit on your face because I like Winston a lot. But I'm going to disagree on the Dirk Cutter thing because I don't think Dirk Cutter is the one we have to worry about. I think the offensive coordinator is going to really utilize the skills of the players to their peak. Todd Monken, who, granted, it's going to be a homer thing, but had it not been for Todd Monken at Southern Miss, no one would even know the name The Good Mike Thomas. So I'm just saying, they had a top 2-3 offense in the entire, NCAA. Now, granted, Texas Tech does the same shit, and they don't always put out good prospects. But there's something to be said
Tech
for that.
Is also, Texas Tech always benefits off of 30, 40, 50 passes a game. I would hope so, right?
Yeah.
It's easy when you're a bad football team. You could just fucking do whatever the hell you want and just have fun with the football and just throw it a million times a game and pad everyone's stats and look really good for the draft.
We're not bad talking Mahomes here, are we?
No. There's a little bit. I think Mahomes is being slightly overhyped, but if we're gonna go into Mahomes, I get that he's a gunslinger and he's talented and everything like that, but he does make some stupid ass mistakes, man. He could do whatever he wanted to do at Texas Tech just because they just were trying to win some football games. He would throw it 40, 50, 60 times a game. But it's like, that's not going to work out in the NFL. You're going to have limited opportunities. You're not going to be able to make up for 1 to 2 interceptions a game. I don't know. I'm not going to get too far into it with Mahomes because he's the kind of guy that I want to see how he actually adapts to the NFL in Kansas City, especially as soon as he takes over. But Andy Reid's not going to tolerate that shit. You're not going to get Patrick Mahomes to throw 30, 40 times a game in Kansas City. It'd be sweet. I mean, we would see the relevancy of like Chris Conley and Jeremy Maclin, Tyreek Hill a lot more, but I don't know. It seems like every person I'm talking about today, I'm just kind of kind of weary on, but I think there's a reason to be wary on most of these rookies this year. It seems like there's negatives in every landing spot and or situation, you know?
Not all of them. I mean, look at McCaffrey. McCaffrey's in a golden situation.
Yeah, and we say, we say McCaffrey went into a golden situation, and then at the same time, they take Curtis Samuel, I think Curtis Samuel and Christian McCaffrey are going to limit each other's ceilings in some way. I mean, they have to. They could be used similarly. Christian McCaffrey isn't going to be down there for 3 downs. He's going to be kind of scattered into the passing game. McCaffrey looks freaking badass when he's out on the football field, but he's not going to be out there all the time. So I don't know. I have a negative about most of these rookies that were drafted. Very few I don't have issues with. One of those was Cooper Kupp, just because I'm like, you're just going to get a shitload of volume, whatever. We can argue about, and Corey Davis is the other one. He's in a great situation as well with Mariota. But with someone like Fournette, we could talk about the Jaguars' offensive line. We could talk about most of the running backs. Samaje Perine was probably the most lucky running back in the draft just because he was put in such maybe a short-term sharing opportunity with Robert Kelly. I mean, and Perine wasn't even like one of the hottest prospects, but now he should be really considered. And a lot of people are paying pretty high prices for him just because of immediate opportunity. I don't know. I don't like the majority of where these rookies went in the draft, but I have high hopes for a lot of them. So I really want to kind of wait a year on the majority of these guys that are being super hyped, like Evan Engram, David Njoku. I'm willing to buy OJ Howard right away. I'm going to buy Gerald Everett. He jumped up in my rankings quite a bit because of his landing spot with McVay. But the Rams are not fantasy relevant, and damn it, I don't know why I'm liking these guys that went to the Rams, just because I guess there's no competition for these guys in year one.
Yeah, and back to Mahomes real quick. I think obviously the passing volume isn't going to be there, but at the same time, there have been a lot of Texas Tech quarterbacks, and a lot of them with this system, this coach, and none of them have gotten the attention. That tells me there's something there more than just he's really good at throwing a football.
He's really good at getting robbed too. Or was that was Mahomes, right?
Yeah, but like one time that happened.
Just one time.
He got robbed in a driveway. Like somebody knew where he was going to be, and they're like, he's got 10th overall pick money. We're going to go get him.
Yeah, he just carries it all in his wallet. If Patrick Mahomes gets robbed in a driveway, what's he going to do in the pocket?
Okay.
That's stupid as fuck. I got you.
You've seen the episode of South Park where Cartman gives Kyle AIDS and Magic Johnson sleeps with all his money?
Yeah.
If I got top 10 overall pick, that would be me. I'm not trusting the banks. I'm not trusting anybody. I'm just going to stacks of cash in my room.
Sleep on it.
Yeah, man. Keep the AIDS away.
All right, we should move on from the AIDS speak right now to the next question.
Yes. So our next one comes from @TomDegenerate, who killer follow. I can't say enough about that. We really had some good questions from some killer people this week. I would definitely be following him. I would definitely be reading his articles because I don't remember who said it. It was either you or Tyler. It's like there's nobody working harder in the Dynasty community than him right now, and I agree.
Yeah, that was Tyler. He's like, not only is this dude putting out awesome content, he's a badass dude to talk to as well. He has a badass accent as well. That was all Tyler. So
yeah, I'd really like a chance to get him as one of the co-hosts for the IDP show, and if I could get like schedules to line up somehow with Britain or I don't know what the fuck to call it. United Kingdom, whatever. That all that fucking old English shit. That would be awesome. But
I'm pretty sure you've already offended him in a few different ways, so I think we just lost that opportunity.
if he's offended, then he wasn't going to be good on here anyways.
Right.
So he wants to know who on earth is worth owning on the Rams this year. Someone must be, but who? Now, we already pretty much touched on this. I think if you're doing redraft, Gurley is the only one I'm taking. I'll take a flyer on Robert Woods. Cooper Kupp can go fuck himself, at least for this year. I'm not relying on any rookie wide receiver for fantasy production. It's
cupping.
Yeah, he's going to be cupping my fucking balls.
Damn, he's going to be cupping fucking fantasy championships, man. No, I'm just kidding. No, but here's the thing. In dynasty leagues, he's going for a really affordable value. I think he's absolutely worth picking up. Same thing with Gerald Everett. Todd Gurley, I'm buying into, especially because he is kind of dropping in ranks, and a lot of people are starting to get impatient with him. But I think there's a recipe for success there with McVay. Anything's better than Jeff Fisher. Additionally, I think if you're looking at a 2-quarterback or superflex league, Jared Goff's going for fucking pennies, man. And if anything, the options around him just got like 200% better. I mean, the guy's got another year under his belt. He's going to learn. He's got a coach that knows how to work with quarterbacks. We saw it in Kirk Cousins. Jared Goff, it could be the year we start seeing the reason why he was the first overall draft pick over Carson Wentz. So he is worth absolutely owning in 2 quarterbacks, super flex leagues. You're going to get 16 games out of him. He's going to be probably one of the cheapest quarterbacks to buy. So go out and get those guys.
I completely disagree. Not on Goff.
Of course. What's new?
No. Not on Goff being a valuable asset in 2 QB, because I completely agree with that. I don't think you're going to be able to buy him anywhere. I think everybody that owns him right now, especially in 2 QB, knows they paid first or second overall for him. The only way you're going to acquire Goff is in redraft 2 QB and 2 QB startups this year. I don't think you're going to be able to trade for him anywhere for anything resembling a reasonable cost.
I can accept that. All right. Yeah, that's probably true, because I do have a lot of Goff shares, and the last thing I'm probably going to do is sell him right now because he's going for so cheap.
Right. And our next one comes from our buddy at Danny Tage. Can you debate this trade in a 10-team must-start 2 QB league? Aaron Rodgers for Gurley and Dak. Could you point out how it helps both teams? Actually, I like this trade. I think it's fairly close, depending on the surrounding running back starting requirements, scoring, shit like that. Do you know the scoring for this league already? Because he mentioned that you'd block him.
This is EVW or NVS.
Oh, is it? Yeah, I don't pay attention to trades that I'm not a part of. So in this case, no. Fuck that trade. I'm taking I want the Dak Gurley side by
exactly. Okay. The reason why not Danny asked us this question is because I got super Earl. I got really mad because this guy told us, hey, Todd Gurley's on the block. I messaged him. I was like, all right, man, let me work something up. As I am in, kind of maneuvering, kind of, patenting a trade offer here for Todd Gurley, because he took over the team from Thor. So he's kind of like making it his own. I was like, if you want to get rid of Todd Gurley, sure, I'll pay quite a bit for Todd Gurley. Let me work something out. All of a sudden, I get an email notification that said a trade has been completed. Let's take a look. So now Danny trades with Tyler. Now Danny gives Tyler Dak Prescott in a start 2 QB league and Todd Gurley for Aaron Rodgers. And I was so pissed because not only did he just give like Todd Gurley away for about half of his price. I get the Aaron Rodgers over Dak Prescott, but now Danny's assuming that Dak Prescott is a bust, which he is not. The dude looks fucking phenomenal, and he's going to grow very well with Dallas. But Tyler, at the same time, being the guy that Tyler is, to be like, no, I think it was a good trade. It's balanced on both sides, and I was like, Tyler, you fucking accepted that thing. He's like, well, yeah, and then not Danny was like, well, I don't understand. What do you hate about it? I was like, Dak Prescott is still a top. He's still a QB1. It's start 2 QB. He's super young. The guy's in Dallas with Des Bryant, Aaron Rodgers, sure, he's going to outscore him, but by how much? You just got like a free Todd Gurley, so not Danny. That trade was stupid, dude. It's 10 team. It's point per carry. Like, what are you doing, man? I'm so mad
at you. That's the part
that
gets me is the quarter point per carry. I don't give a fuck if Todd Gurley averages 2.5 yards a carry. If he gets 280, 300 carries, he's an RB1.
I'm so fucking pissed off right now, man. Every time I think about the trade, and he knows it, and I saw that question on the docket here, and I'm just like, you asshole, you little asshole. I hope you rot in hell, not Danny. God,
he is a little ass sucker.
He's a little ass sucker, right?
But he's the best. I love him. But he is a little ass sucker.
I love that, dude. I love you, dude. It's all good. But the fact that Tyler benefited from that trade, it just drives me even more insane but I think it's really cute that all these teams are trying to make these trades and trying to compete with me because I'm going to, kind of defend my title here. But the fact that Tyler just got a free Todd Gurley out of the deal just infuriates me so much, especially when I was so close to submitting a trade for him. I was like, why didn't you message me? I was just like, I'm going to make a trade. He's like, okay, cool, man. I'll look forward to it. And then he just makes a trade with someone else. Like, what are you doing? That you could have gotten so much more. But whatever, it's done and over with. That's a stupid trade. For all the listeners, do not sell Dak Prescott and Todd Gurley for Aaron Rodgers. Just don't do it. Don't be stupid like not Danny was.
Oh, fuck. I already lost my train of thought. It was a good one.
Still fired up. I'm telling you, man. Oh, so Earl. So salty. No doubt about it.
I'm crazy frustrated that I already forgot what I was going to say.
I'm pretty sure you're going to find a way to make it not Danny, but we can just move on to the next question.
I mean, I guess we could. That's no fun, though. But we will. Our next one comes from @CoachMartin3, who's, he was coming after us fairly often, like, hey, guys, you gonna do another playbook? And I'm glad to tell you we're back. It's it meant a lot to have you guys, supporting us. Like, hey, man, we missed the show. Can you bring it back? I'm like, okay, fine. I won't let it die. But his question is, what's your favorite strategy in a Dynasty Superflex, 12 teams PPR, tight end premium for receptions? You go in 2-3 QBs early, wide receiver, tight end later. And it's hard for me to say anymore because all of our 2 QB leagues have point per carry. So that immediately muddies everything because I'm either going to go QB or running back in the first 2 rounds. And that's how I approach it. I don't really care about wide receiver in our leagues, and tight end, again, is inconsequential. You'll notice that, the guys who are the stronger teams have good running backs, have good quarterbacks. The wide receivers aren't going to drag you to a championship. And you're in a standard 2 QB league, I'm walking out of the first 2 rounds with at least 1 quarterback. I don't care if I have to overpay in the second round. Most of the time I'll leave with 2 QBs in the first 3 rounds. And then after that, it's just whatever, free for all. But most of the time it's play the board.
No, totally. I mean, I think the important thing is that tight end premium. A lot of people want to overvalue that tight end premium, but at the same time, it doesn't do much difference. The better guys, the very few the better guys that there are at the tight end position, there's probably about 9 of them just get better, and everyone else just gets like a little bump. But at the same time, people are passing on these really good wide receiver 2s for these tight end 2s, and don't do that. You're not going to get the volume at the tight end position like you probably will at the wide receiver 2 position. I'm very similar. I think we recently kicked off, 2 years ago, we kicked off some of our 2 QB startups, and I went quarterback right off the bat. I even traded up into the first round to get my second quarterback right away. When you are set at 2 quarterbacks in the first 3 rounds, it makes everything so much easier. You do not miss out on value at wide receiver. You don't miss out on value at running back. You absolutely, definitely need to get 2 quarterbacks right away. And it is very necessary for you to get a third quarterback for not only like your team's bye week purposes, but for dynasty purposes as well. Things happen to quarterbacks all the time. You always need one in reserve. They're always the highest scoring position. If you're starting 2 quarterbacks every week, you want a third one in reserve. That is also a starter. I don't understand what are you doing in like round 7? You like Drew said, you need to let the board fall to you. But most times than not, I'm probably going wide receiver over tight end in those rounds.
I am too.
So
For me, the only time tight end premium becomes something I actually consider is when you're starting 2 tight ends, which has become more commonplace in the leagues I'm in. That changes things drastically. But in terms of, 1.5 for PPR, that doesn't really do anything for me. One, because, like Waz said, it kind of just makes the good guys better and the other guys barely startable. And then the other thing that I've kind of noticed with it is tight ends aren't getting enough receptions for it to really make that big of a difference.
exactly.
You have to be starting, the league has to be starting a minimum of 24 tight ends for me to care about tight end. If it's start 2 and it's 10 team, I don't give a shit. I will start Delaney Walker and TJ McDonald, and that's good enough for me. But
here's the thing. Only 10, I think it was about 10 tight ends. I'm going to count right here. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, only 10 tight ends met or exceeded 60 receptions last year.
I mean,
so you're getting about 6 guys you're looking at about 15 to 17 tight ends that are receiving 80 or more targets, but only about half of those guys, maybe a little bit more, are catching at least 60% of them or 70% of them. At the same time, only about 5 of those tight ends are actually scoring more than 5 touchdowns. So when you start looking at the fantasy points per target on these tight ends, or even the targets per snap for these tight ends, it's not favorable. Don't let the tight end premium get to your head. Go for those more consistent wide receivers. If you can get a guy like last year, like a Greg Olsen, who I think is going to eat this year. If you're looking to compete, get a Greg Olsen, but you're not going to be able to. Kyle Rudolph, even with the addition of Bucky Hodges, someone like Travis Kelce, who's doing it all, unless you get like 2 of those guys, don't worry about it too much. And just like Drew said, pick up a later round guy, pick up a Gerald Everett in your rookie draft, pick up
I'm going to turn that into a drinking game, and I'm going to die before the end of the episode for every time you say Gerald Everett.
That's probably about a dozen times. Everything looks right for the Rams this year. I think they drafted really well. I mean, there's not much to complain about it other than the fact that it's the Rams.
And they didn't.
But I think there's a lot of things to like. I like the wild card of a new coach too. A coach that's kind of proven himself in one way or another. But yeah, go wide receiver, get quarterbacks early, and play the board.
I did have 2 more things I wanted to touch on. One was a finishing thought on the tight ends. Like I said, I mean, I normally don't care about it, but at that same time, if Kelce falls or if one of those top 3, 4, 5 guys falls, I am jumping all over that shit because, like we said, the good guys just get better and you get a real positional advantage with, Gronk, Kelce, I'll even say like Eifert because I still love him, but not on the same level. Hunter Henry is going to eventually be there. But my other thought was more so on the QB side is one of the things that I cannot overstate the value of it is having 2 legit solid starting QBs when rookie drafts come around.
Oh, it makes it so much easier.
It does, because you don't have to worry about reaching on some quarterback that might turn out okay. Like I said it last week, I'd spend the 103, 104 on Deshaun Watson. If I had 2 quarterbacks, I never would have even considered that shit. I'd have been all over Cook or Mixon or whoever else fell. But you have to have quarterbacks in 2 QB. You just it's a way. It's the whole setup. I mean, you have to have them, and if you don't have them, you're fucked. You're picking 103 like I did.
And you never know what's going to happen to these quarterbacks. We don't even know if Trubisky's going to sit out an entire year. And to wait on the quarterback for an entire year or more, and you're spending a first-round pick on them, you're wasting so much time and value at so many other positions, and you're putting yourself off for probably 1 to 2 more years yourself in competing. And when that happens, some of your other playmakers who you're holding around as a running back or wide receiver, those guys aren't. Yeah, that's so. I mean, you're stuck in this routine. Don't be streaming quarterbacks in Dynasty, and not in Superflex or 2QB. It's not gonna work out. And I'm pretty sure I've never actually tested that theory, but I'm pretty sure that's a pretty solid take right there.
I've only had it play out well for me one time. I started Kaepernick and like Matt Castle. This was a few years ago when Matt Castle had like that random, like you could use him for a minute. Maybe not Matt Castle. I'm not thinking of the right name. Or did he come back for what, 2014?
No, it seems a little further than that.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. But I can't remember who else I would. But I mean, it was like shitty quarterbacks. Like, okay, this guy's going to start for 3 weeks. I'll start him now. Yeah. But because I was stacked at all the other positions, I was able to pull it out. But that is by far the exception to the rule. Like, you're not going to just happen to get by. This was the 2014 draft. I hit on all those fucking rookies. They were all fantasy relevant. They're
all awesome.
You can't count on that shit any other year. That 2014 was a weird year because I dove headfirst into Dynasty that year. Like, I dabbled before that, but 2014 was time to go all in, and that skewed my view on everything because it's so just out of the norm how it played out. But
everyone even mentions 2014 as an outlier, and it makes sense to me. I think I started diving in 2013, but sure, I think 14 looks so badass because 15 and 16 kind of suck so much, and 17's kind of so far.
And 13 wasn't good.
No,
I mean, what did you get out of 13? Keenan Allen, and then the running back. The running backs, we all thought the running backs were going to suck ass, and then we get Bell and fucking.
Yep.
Oh, I'm blanking because it's not. Lacey sucked. Ish. Geo hasn't been all that good. I'm trying to think of who else was in that class that was a stud because I was just thinking of it the other day.
It's Le'Veon Bell. It's really no other way around that one.
Well, no, but I mean there was another like top 10-ish guy.
Hold on. We'll just sit in awkward silence here while we think about it.
Freeman?
No, Freeman came out like afterwards. After that, it was Gio and I mean Monte Ball, Kristen Michael, if we want to talk about that. But there was really no other like studs that hit. Like we're talking about like Niall Davis. Now that I'm looking at it now, it was Le'Veon Bell, Eddie Lacy, and that's it. Oh well, I mean we don't know what's going to happen to Mike Gillislee or Oh hey, there was a stud that actually came out in the 13. I found it. I don't know if it's actually Spencer. Latavius Murray.
Oh, that's right. I remember that little bitch-made bitch. But tell me again about all those leagues you won with Murray.
Enough.
Fair enough. But we're gonna rapid fire through these last two questions just because we're coming up on an hour.
Yeah.
Our next one comes from our buddy at Fife 1919. What are Tyler Boyd owners doing with him exactly? Selling, standing pat, or buying more? Looking for my point of view on this. Well, most of us have turned to drugs and alcohol. It's not a good life. And there's nothing to do. I mean, they already have AJ Green. They already have Tyler Eifert. And they spend a top 10 pick on John Ross. It's not like the targets aren't going to be there. I'm not dropping him. I can't. My soul can't handle that. But I have no expectations for what he's going to do. I don't think. I think he's going to be a guy that he's going to be a Brandon LaFell in terms of fantasy production. And I know I'm using his teammate, but LaFell has always been around. He's always done stuff, but he's never really been worth owning for more than a year. But
I was going to bring up Brandon LaFell as well. Before the draft, after the end of last year, and before a lot of these unrestricted free agents got signed, what Tyler Boyd needed and what made perfect sense, what I thought the Bengals organization was going to do, is not re-sign LaFell. But they did. And right off the bat, I was like, oh, that's terrible for Tyler Boyd. And then in the draft, you're going to spend a an elite pick on John Ross. Oh, that's even worse for Tyler Boyd. So I don't know why you would stand pat with Tyler Boyd. I know you can't get shit for him, but at the same time, you should really try to get like a 3rd-round pick for him. I would have suggested second, after the LaFell news and before the John Ross news, but no one's going to be selling you a 2nd-round pick for Tyler Boyd. He's not going to be relevant this year. He may not ever be relevant. He's going to be a guy that's going to get stuck out there as a wide receiver 4. Just get rid of him as soon as you can. There's still people like Drew that like him a lot. Get rid of him.
You see, I don't think the LaFell signing really said a lot about Boyd. I think it said a lot about them shoring up their depth at wide receiver because it's not like it was good. So
LaFell ate into so many targets, though. I mean, yeah, Brandon LaFell,
Boyd was a rookie and LaFell was healthy. LaFell is not good enough, in my opinion, to keep Tyler Boyd from being on the field. John Ross, different story, but I wasn't concerned about LaFell. And in terms of trading him for a 3rd-round pick, I don't give a fuck. If I'm not getting a high second back, then I'm not going to trade him. It's not worth it to me. I'd rather hold on to him and hope something happens and drop him off my roster if he just gets dropped and no one cares about him in the NFL. But it's one of those things where the potential is too much for me to just give him away for a 3rd-round pick. And the 3rd-round pick is going to be, just as likely to fucking bust. And I don't even get to pick which one it is yet.
I get it, man. I loved Tyler Boyd. We were all on board with Tyler Boyd, but there comes a time when you start realizing this is not looking good at all. And so, I mean, we can go into a whole roster clogger discussion. It's going to be tough for Boyd. He needs like 2 injuries to be relevant, and that's tough. I'm pretty sure we can count on Tyler Eifert to get injured. But at the same time, I'm not getting my hopes up for him. If I get it, though. If I had Tyler Boyd and someone offered me a 3rd, I'm probably already eating on my words. I already kind of said I probably could not sell him, but it sucks because you probably should.
That's a fair take. You probably should, but I'm not going to. Yeah. And our last question comes from @BigFatBob. If you wanted to move Julio Jones for a player and a 1st, what's the range of player and pick you'd go? That's really a difficult question. In terms of a pick, it's got to be in this draft the top 5 pick plus. Fuck.
I mean, all right. So Big Fat Bob's asking. He's giving up a Julio and a 1st, and he wants to know who he can get for a player plus a 2nd. I mean, am I reading this right?
No, you are not.
All right, that's why I'm so confused.
The 2 ST, I think he just meant to type 1st, and I just never corrected it. He's trying to trade Julio for a player plus a 1st, or if he's getting Julio, I don't know. But it would have to be something like, it couldn't even be Moncrief in a top 5 pick. It would have to be more valuable than Moncrief.
Yeah, I mean, and so many players are more valuable than Moncrief.
I don't agree with that. I think Moncrief's like a top 25 dynasty asset in terms of ADP. If he's not, he's close. But I think I'd need somebody based on their ADP. I think I'd want somebody like Brandon Cooks, even though Brandon Cooks is a 1st-round ADP.
That's exactly who I was actually going to say. I think Brandon Cooks, in the situation that he's in, we were talking him up a little bit last week. So many people are still a little weary about the fact that he's in New England surrounded by other wide receivers. Brandon Cooks is I'll take that. Yeah, Brandon Cooks is probably the perfect person. If you can get Brandon Cooks in a trade for Julio Jones in some shape or form, I think that's going to be beneficial to your fantasy football team.
Yeah, and I think that about does it for us today. I'll take a quick look at Twitter, see if we got anything last second. We did not. So let's call it a night. It was a solid hour of content, and I think we're really starting to get a groove in. Granted, we do a lot of actual discussions and not as much bullshitting, which, I mean, that's probably good for a fantasy football podcast, but I don't know,
man. I don't think you actually realized how much we just kind of rambled and bullshitted there in the show.
Well, I'm pretty
sure we have a good 15 minutes of friggin' bullshitting in the show, at least.
I don't know about that. If it's 15 minutes, it was 15 minutes of football bullshitting. We didn't get a whole lot of non-football talk, which
Okay, all right, I'll take it.
it used to be about 50-50 for Tyler and I. So this is good for content, not as good for.
I'm sorry. I feel like I'm letting these people down.
Mostly you're just making it to where I have to know more things, and that's hard.
Oh man, but it's pretty good too because everything I said, you're like, I disagree, and I was like, I'll say something else. You're like, I disagree. So our listeners are like, yeah. So our listeners are like, I learned fucking nothing today because you guys
don't agree on
every take. Yeah. So I was like, all right, never mind.
Actually, I think it's a better way to learn things because you're taking two takes and then you get to weigh. You're not just blindly following what people tell you should do. Instead, you're oh, here's this point of view, here's this point of view. Now I can weigh the decisions and make them myself, which is the best part of Dynasty at least in my opinion, is go out and do what you think is going to be best, not just what some fucking dickhole with a podcast told you to do, which is not really good advertising for a guy that's a dickhole and has a podcast. But
welcome to the Dynasty Playbook. 2 Dynasty dickholes, 2 Dynasty podcast dickholes, ready to give you the shit that they won't agree on.
I think I should rename the show Dynasty Dickholes so that way no one downloads it and is surprised by our foul language.
I hope they're not surprised about the foul just like sentence I try to say there. I tried to be all funny and cute about that whole dickhole thing, and I kind of messed it up halfway and just tried to like scavenge any kind of hope I had left to make that funny.
No, you butchered it. But I was gonna let it go. I was gonna let you kind of ease into your role here. Not everybody is just naturally funny.
Oh, hey, I'm Drew. Welcome to the Dynasty Dickholes.
Oh, that's perfect. But no, I have enjoyed recording with you. It's different than with Tyler, but it's not a bad difference. It's just it's something to adjust to. And guys, definitely with the new changes, feedback.
That's right, Drew. That's right. Suck my dick. Yeah, come on.
No, thank you.
Give it to me. Tell me how much you like it. Tell me how much you've enjoyed this.
I mean, I do like having a small snack every now and then.
Hey, look at me. Look at me when you tell me this. All right. Thanks, babe.
All right. That was uncomfortable. All right. That's enough for tonight. Guys, this has been the Dynasty Playbook. We really appreciate you coming back and listening to us and sticking with us while we were gone. If you've got any feedback for us, please send it our way. Either send it to me or send it to Waz or at Dynasty Playbook, which has its own little Twitter. If you want to follow that, I don't really do a lot on it, but you can shoot questions over there. Like if you're just, wanting advice or anything, that, I answer it through there too. So you're got all sorts of options if you want to talk to us. Apparently, one of our reviews said being easily accessible is a bonus. Well, I feel like easily accessible is pretty much all I do. Shoot me whatever dumb questions or good questions. I'm not saying your questions are dumb. I'm going to stop rambling now, and I'm going to edit out a lot of what I just said. That was not good. But if you do have feedbook.
Well, if you guys have some feedbook, just go ahead and stop talking because there's no such thing as feedbook. Have a great night.
All right. This has been the Dynasty Playbook. I've been your host, Drew. You can find me on Twitter at Drew Dodson NFL. With me has been my gorgeous co-host, Waz, at Waz NFL. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next week.